Crafting bold portraits with power and purpose is our topic today on Luminar Coffee Break. Now, this is going to be a special edition, so I may run over 15 minutes, but let's see what we can accomplish in that time. And it all begins now. Hello, everyone. So over the weekend, I was really excited. One of my very first interns, Richie Acevedo Jr., 20 years ago, I took him on as an intern, and since then he's had a dual career, firefighter and a portrait or wedding and portrait photographer. He's one of the #1 portrait and wedding photographers in the state of Florida, and he became the assistant chief of the fire department for Palm Bay. So he's retiring after 32 years into the serving our community. So I wanted to capture a special portrait that just represented him. And we went into his studio and his wife, Surly, and I collaborated on this. So let me show you what we did. So here are the shots. And what I want to do first is let me take you to behind the scenes first. Now, there were several different shots that we did. I'm just going to show you one of the setups. This setup is a bold type. It's not traditional. It's not a traditional portrait. We did do a couple of those, just hit the save shots in. But notice the 7-foot parabolic umbrella. 7 foot. How could you not cast beautiful light with something that large? So we did it a little bit differently. Instead of it being in front of the subject, we put it up on top, bringing it down onto Richie. Here's the problem. When we do that, under the helmet is going to be dark because the light is casting straight down and the helmet is preventing it. So to fix this, boom, I added a little light right here, and we made this right here. We call that a snoot, all right? So we didn't have cinfoil, which I'll make sure I get Richie it for his retirement. So we used just a makeshift, a little round. We could have used a piece of paper. Didn't matter what it was. You make it a round snoot, and then that light shoots onto the subject. In this case, Richie. Notice these V flats are in the background. You can make those with a foam board or gator board. Black is going to absorb light. White is going to reflect light. Since we wanted this to be more of a dramatic portrait, I chose black, or we chose black. And behind those lights, what you don't see is the extra lights. Let's see if I have one over here. Okay, so here these lights were hidden by the V flat, and that's what's going to give us the gels. All right. Now, how do we get all of it, in sync? We've talked about this before. There are 5 elements to a proper exposure, right? 3 of them everyone already knows: ISO, shutter, and then your f-stop. The 2 missing variables, light to subject distance, and then the power of your light. So the goal is to lock down 4 of those 5 elements. And this is where a light meter comes in. So you ask yourself, what do I want? Well, I wanted to shoot at f4 to 4.5 because I wanted the texture in Richie's uniform. So that 4.5 was locked in. ISO 100 and the shutter speed. Ready for this? When you're dealing with studio lighting, the only thing the shutter speed is going to do is dictate if the ambient light in the room is going to be non-existent. So we chose 1/160th of a second. Now, when Richie photographs weddings and he's using a flash, he may drop it down to maybe a 20th of a second or a 30th of a second. Now, you may think you're going to get motion blur, not when you're dealing with flash. So when you're dealing with flash, the ambient light is controlled by your shutter speed. And then the other 2 variables, power of the light to subject distance. Since we were working on battery-operated strobes, right here, I opted to go, we first started out with quarter power. That was too powerful. We moved to 18th of a power, then moved to 1/32nd power. that conserved battery, and it let us be able to help us shoot the entire time. So the power of the light stayed consistent, light to subject distance. Look how big that thing is. We don't want to keep moving it. So I locked down all those elements. So this is where the light meter comes in. We go up, and let's see if you have a shot. Yep, there it is. So here I am with the light meter. I dialed in the shot. So I dialed in the light meter. It doesn't give you aperture. I could dial in ISO and then the shutter speed. Then I set the position where I want the light to hit. Shirley fired it, and then it came back and said, based on the power of the light and the light to subject distance and those other two settings, this is f8. Well, I don't want f8. I want 4.5. So we lower the power of the light until that meter reading gave me the numbers I wanted. And when it does that, that right there helps you confirm what you're shooting. Now, if you don't have a light meter, this is where we were tethering, which I don't have on here. Darn it. We tethered to the computer. And ready for this? The moment I took that shot, it went onto the computer and inside Luminar Neo. And they had a beautiful, I think it was like a 55-inch or 65-inch screen. We were able to watch it and look at it in real time. So if you don't have a light meter, don't try to do it on the back of the camera, because that's next to impossible to see. Tether it to a computer, tether it to a monitor. Now you can actually see what you're shooting. But light meters, when it comes to flash photography, is extremely, extremely important. So we tethered it to the computer. Boom. I was able to see it in real time. And not only was I able to see it in real time, but we were also able to make any adjustments inside Luminar Neo. So let me get to Richie's images. So here are the images. All right. Now, by the way, what I forgot to mention, the very, 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 very first shot you take, you with no lights on. So you have all the settings set. Turn off the trigger that's on top of the camera. Turn that off so it doesn't communicate with the lights. Take a picture. If it comes out black, see, like this right here, if it comes out black, you know what that means? The ambient light in the room is not contaminating the shot. Now, if you noticed in the very beginning up here, the shutter wasn't fast enough at the time. So I did, let's see, this was Surly's. So, yep, the shutter speed was fine. Let me think this was before we F8, that's right. Because remember, I said I put mine at F4 or 4.5. So when I shot it, and it came out pitch black like this. Now, if I were to up this, you'll see Richie is in there somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, there he is. Look up, there he is. But notice, see some of the shadows. Yep, look at that. Look how it's black. That means that the ambient light in the room didn't contaminate this shot, and the only way Richie was getting lit was from the studio strobes. All right. Now, here's one of the shots. We were just horsing around, getting it down, getting everything set. Ooh, but you know what I'm noticing? I didn't like that his face wasn't lit. That's when we came along and decided to put the snoot right here. That's when we came along and we put that snoot on, and then that gave the light up underneath it. Now, if we didn't do that, and we ended up with all the shots that are poorly lit, let's just use that one here. Let's use this one. If we ended up doing that, now we have to rely on Luminar Neo to actually fill that in. So if you didn't light it properly, then what we're going to do is come over here and let's just go to face. Now he has a helmet on. Let's see if it finds it. Yep, sure enough. Look at that. It did find it. And I just realized something. You know what? I did have the snoot, because look at the little catch light in the eye, but it wasn't powerful enough. All right? But look what we just did. we were able to save it inside Luminar Neo. Now I'm going to come over here, develop, and let's take the highlights down a little bit. And let's take the black down just a touch. And now let's see what happens. We come back up here to the face, and there we have it. All right? Now, a couple things. These were just test shots in the very beginning. And, oh, yeah, here you go. Notice we overlit the snoot just to see. And then eventually we landed on the shot down in here. All right? Somewhere around in here. Now, notice, one other thing is a gray card. What's the purpose of the gray card? Well, look at Richie's face. There we are. Well, if we come over here, edit, and I'm going to go to develop raw, color, and now with the color, I'm just going to come over here. Look, there's neutral gray, 122, 109, 106, 103. Let's see, right about, yeah, right there. Now look what that just did. Look how that gave me the proper white balance. Now, that's great, right? I can just right-click, adjustments, copy, and then apply it to all the images. But there's a slight flaw with that. What happens if I start to apply different presets and different things? Then that white balance is gone. A better option, which I didn't do in the shoot, that I should have, was in the camera. You could set your own white balance preset. So you would zoom in on that gray card. And in your camera, this Nikon, Canon, Sony, you have an option to capture that gray card. You can capture it in camera and say, set that as my white balance. Now, when you do that, when you come in to develop raw, as shot, we are, edit, develop raw, the as shot right here, the white balance, as shot, that would be the perfect gray card balance or white balance in the scene. All right, so that's another option. Now that we got it, we just started working on just different ways. These were like the safe shots. You know, they weren't my favorite ones. And typically, here we are. You saw we're getting it lit better. All right, they're okay, but those are the safety shots that, you know, if you had to get it, there it is. These were the shots we wanted to get. We used what's called a smoke ninja. This little device here. Gone are the days with those huge smoke machines. Now, those are great for outdoors or for concerts, but in a studio like this little, see if I can get it going. Of course, the battery is dead. But, so this little smoke ninja was able to lit that area. Look how powerful that thing is. Look at this. And the neat thing about it is it dissipated right away. So you're not stuck. You're not stuck with the smoke filling up the entire room. And then when you're starting to photograph, you're going to have a haze on the subject. So that's what we did with the smoke ninja. Now, to get a little more creative, here we are, and I have to admit, let's see. Yep. So this is my shot. I wish I could tell you I'm a master at that smoke ninja, but Richie and his wife Shirley will tell you I'm not that good at directing that smoke. I work at it, but usually my assistants do it. Shirley did a phenomenal job. Look at this. Look how she was able to paint with that smoke, and that worked out great. So let's take this image real quick, and we're going to just do a real quick develop with it. Let's do this adjustment, paste. Good, so that gave me the white balance. Yep. Okay, so I have my white balance set. And by the way, if you don't have that gray card, another way to do the white balance is to come to your color and then select a neutral gray. Usually, look at it, there's the eye. 85, 76, 73, that's considered neutral gray. There it is. All right, so we have that set. Now let's take this image and just give it a little more dramatic. Because again, we want it to be bold for Richie. Now I know that they want to have these printed as an 8x10. If my camera doesn't do it, unfortunately, if your camera allows you in camera to set it as an 8x10, by all means do that. All right. Now, in this case here, I shot a little too much to where there's not enough headroom. It's okay. After we're done editing, I would use Gen Expand to expand the edges so there's more headroom on the helmet. But here we are with Richie. Now let's come down to our portrait tools, face relight, pop a little light into the face. There we have it. By the way, while I was here, what I should do is under the develop, let's bring down some of those highlights. Look at the helmet. Good. And now we have that set. Me personally, what we were doing towards the end, I knew it in this shot, we did what's called feathering the light. So with the light source, now this was coming straight down on here, and some of the other images, the light was lighting up his entire body. And I'll show you those. So you take the light and you either tilt it up or you tilt it off to the side. Because now the bulk of the light is shooting up to the ceiling and they're being kissed with a lower light, and that light's falling off, so you're getting a beautiful, gradual light fall off, so you're getting a shadow underneath. Since we didn't do that for this image because we lit it from up top, what I will do instead is do a global change, affect the entire image. Now, let's do a local change. Linear gradient, and just apply it to the bottom. There we go. We go a little bit darker. Let's pick shadows. Here we go. Here we have it. All right. Now that we have that set, that smoke looks really good. You know what? We had a little structure. I'm going to go, that's extreme. Let's just add just a little structure to that smoke. There we go. And while I'm at it, let's pop a little vignette in here. So the focus is Richie. And I love that his helmet has his name on it. So this could be photographed 3/4. It could be photographed here, the portrait itself. Or if we, like I said, we wanted to, we could change it up a bit and bring it in right about here. Here's the assistant chief. That looks great. So we have that set. Now, what happens if, in fact, before I show you the what if, let me do one more thing. I'm going to take Enhance AI, but I'm only going to apply it with a radial gradient just to the top half of Richie. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Yeah, there we have it. So you saw that brings it out just a little bit more for us. All right. Now, we put gels on the light afterwards. But what if Richie loved this image and said, you know, I love that smoke, but I really wish it was that deep red for the fireman? Well, let's go to toning. And under the highlights, let's just apply saturation. And now let's try to get that red type look, or even blue. I'd rather red. And then let's go shadows. Yep, you know what? I'm going to have to stick with blue. Later, on another tutorials, I'll show you if I'm not getting the exact colors that I want, there's different ways to achieve it. Let's just use blue for a moment. But I don't want it on Richie. So let's use Mask AI, and it's going to find the human in the scene. Once it finds the human, we're going to select everything but Richie to make that give me, there we go. So I found him. Let's do the inverse. There we go. Now the blue is off of him, and we have it. So that's how we fix the image in Luminar Neo. but it's better to do it in camera. Let me see if I have it here. I do. Okay. So notice this is what we did here. By adding the gel to the smoke, now we're doing it in camera. Now I'm getting everything all set. And I just grabbed a couple of these. See, okay, here's one. All right. And we have to decide when to break the rules. So for portraits, you want the face to be well lit, but he also wants to be very mysterious. He likes how his eyes are in here. If the subject said, no, I do want my whole face lit, and a couple people on Facebook made that comment, and that's okay. It's a matter of your creativity. So from here, we can come back down, the face relight, and look, I'm going to bump it up a bit. If it's still not where I want it to be, let's say I want those shadows on the face to be more predominant. Well, let's come over here. Let's bump up the shadows. There we go. Then I'm going to brush in where I want it to go. Right there we are. Now we have it lit. So for those people who would rather not have a dark and moody photo, they want a traditional look, here's how you can give options inside the program itself. All right? So there we have it. Just different ways on how we can develop the shoot. Now, I am going to show you one more. This right here, this image here. A good friend of mine, Mike Cabasi, made the comment, Finelli, firemen are red. They're associated with red. Why did you do blue? That was a creative choice. That was something that Shirley wanted, and that was her shot to get it like this. So we applied it to what the photographer wanted. Each person is different. If I don't like that, then I can use hues and saturation and then adjust it to get the red that you're looking for. Now to get this shot, you get back up here. And up here it is, perfect. All right, you see this right here? To get that particular shot, if you notice, there's glare coming on his helmet. Now that's coming from the ambient light, but once we shot it, that would disappear. But if we kept the key light, I don't have here, yep, right over here. So if we kept that key light going, what would have happened is, which it did, it gave us this weird glare coming straight down. So to fix that, a small light source is going to cause that problem. We just turn the light onto the wall. Now, that small light source hit that huge wall, that bounced back. And that's what gave us, where is he, Richie? And that's what's going to give us the shot that we're looking at here. So notice, we didn't have that glare coming down because we used the wall to bounce the light back to give us some of that look. Now, let's see if I do have it for you. Right here. Yeah, here it is. Look at these. So as you can see, look at that. Look at that glare. All right, that's unacceptable. And again, that's because the light source, the position of it, the angle of reflection, and it's a smaller light source. Now, if we use that 7-foot parabolic umbrella, well, then his whole face would have a beautiful soft light all the way through. So those were tips. You see it right here. We shut this off, and notice we're not getting the light that we want. So that's when we turned it and then just bounced that light back onto the subject. All right? So I hope that helped you guys. And again, this was a much longer Luminar Coffee Break because, honestly, Richie deserved it. I just love the fact that we were able to get back into the studio and get creative. So if you have further questions on why we chose the camera settings or how you would want maybe just a different type of approach, please let me know. Leave that into the comments below. All right? Now, by the way, we also started a new Practical Edit YouTube channel for our Luminar Skylum, or for Skylum. And it's not just about editing. It also deals with the photography, like what I just did here. And there it is there. Every Friday is when we'll be sending those out for the next 12 weeks. All right? Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. If you're here, please stick around for the Ask Me Anything segment. For everyone else, I'll see you at the next coffee break.